Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to show you guys how I update my budget, specifically how I update my budget in my Google spreadsheet budget that I have been using lately. But before I show you guys my spreadsheet budget and start updating it, I do want to talk a little bit about my budget routine, as well as why it's important to be updating your budget regularly. So really quick with my budget routine, I typically like to spend some time in the morning before the kids wake up and disrupt me. I usually like to be in my budget or have my budget time. And what I do first is I will track my expenses first. So during the week, so Tuesday through Friday, those are my easy budget update days because there's not a whole lot of spending that we do during the week. It's maybe one or two transactions. If not, there's no transactions at all to really check off. I just go in and check my account and make sure everything's good and all the pending transactions have gone through. But I usually will write everything down in my budget by paycheck workbook. I actually have it right here. So this is my first step because I still do prefer to write down in my paper budget planner. I still use a paper planner as well. I'm still using my passion planner. It's just now I like to transfer it over to my Google spreadsheet because it just looks way neater and I can see all the visuals like the pie charts and all of that, and I can share it with my husband as well. So yeah, that's my first step is I will write everything down and update in my budget by paycheck workbook first, and then I will transfer it over to my Google spreadsheet. Like I mentioned earlier, Tuesday to Friday are more of like the easier days. Like it'll take me like maybe 5-10 minutes to write things down and check it off that everything's got paid. But on Mondays, I consider those my big budget update days because during the weekend is when we spend the most money. That's when we do our big grocery haul. We spend on takeout and whatever else, like fun and events usually happen on the weekends as well. So a lot of our spending usually happen on the weekends. So on Mondays, I'm spending a little bit more time in the morning to write everything out, but it's still all the same. I write everything down in my budget by paycheck workbook, and then I transfer it over to Google Sheet. So two of the biggest reasons why we update our budget and why I recommend updating your budget on a regular basis is because one, you are checking off and making sure that all your bills are being paid for. And if your bills are on auto pay, you are marking it off that it has been paid for and has been taken out of your account or your checking account. And number two is to make sure that your variable spending is still under control. You're able to see how much you have spent so far in your variable day-to-day spending categories. This will tell you if you've gone over in certain budget categories and you need to calm the F down on all the spending, or if you're still under on your budget categories or your variable budget categories. This is especially important if you mostly use your debit card for purchases, just like we do. Unlike with cash spending or the cash envelope method, you can easily see how much money is left over in your cash envelopes for certain variable spending categories. With a debit card, you are just swiping away your card, and if you're not careful and you're not updating your budget and tracking expenses, you can easily go over budget if you're not mindful of those purchases. And I prefer to use our debit card and not cash. So for me, I don't mind a little bit of extra hard work to keep track of our spending and to update our budget. Also, when you are updating your budget, and if you do use your debit card, I find that if I do go over a specific category, for us, it's mostly the food budget category, I'm able to see what budget category that I'm under budget in, and I'll just keep in mind not to go over that spending category. And usually that's sometimes household for us or gas. Sometimes we don't need to fill up certain weeks, so those categories will be under, and it kind of helps make up for going over the food budget. So yeah, those are the two biggest reasons why you should update your budget regularly. One is to check in and make sure your bills are paid, and two is to make sure all of your variable spending is under control. So now, having said all of this, let's go ahead and take a look at my spreadsheet budget. Okay, so now that we are in my spreadsheet budget, I'm actually going to start off not with updating here during the month. I'm going to go ahead and do my expense tracker first. This is what it looks like. As you guys can see, I have not updated this since May 4th. So I have quite a bit of expense tracking to do. While everything is all good and updated on my budget by paycheck workbook, it's not updated on here. And I'm really trying to do my best to keep, I'm really trying to do my best to keep this updated because at the end of the year, I really want to have a good overview of the entire year on here in my 2021 budget overview. So yeah, anyway, so let's get back to May spending. I'm going to go ahead and quickly just type everything in here and get to color coding. Okay, so now that I have all of it written down on here, I am going to go ahead and just color code everything so that when I'm adding it all up, it'll be easier for me to see. I just like to have a visual of what we're spending in the most, and from what I can tell, it's most likely food and fun and events this time around, or this month. So lots of transportation this time around. And I forgot to mention earlier that for this paycheck period, I'm also going to show you guys the plan for transferring or using our savings buckets to cover some of these expenses with transportation and fun and events as well. I think that's it for transportation. We did get our brakes replaced, fixed my car up a little bit. So both cars needed work on. I don't think we've gone over on food. It kind of seems like we could have, because we did put a lot of food or takeout under fun and events for all of the celebrations that we've had going on with like my husband's birthday and then Mother's Day. Yeah, so lots of fun and events for this paycheck period, and it's bi-weekly, so this is just for 2 weeks. You think it would be for a month, but it's just 2 weeks. Some of these color I try to keep the same as I can with like my budget by paycheck workbook to make it a little easier, but it doesn't happen with all of them. So what ended up happening with one of the transactions on here, I marked it differently in the budget by paycheck workbook. It's basically a canceled transaction because I canceled an order. So here I'm going to be able to just delete this. I'm not going to delete this. So delete this part here, and everything should total up again over here for me. So $87.18 is what we do have in our checking account right now. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a checkbox to just let me know that that's what we have in our checking account. If there's no checkbox on there, I usually will write something like actually on our account is this much. I like to always know what my checking account balance is. So yeah, so now that everything is all nice and color coded, I'm gonna go ahead, or actually I totally forgot about the cash. So we did some cash spending also. So I say spending. So on Friday, May 7th was my husband's birthday, and he wanted Filipino food at one of the takeout places that we go to, or restaurants that we go to, and that would be fun and events. And we spent, I believe, $21. No, we spent $25 there. So we spent $25. And then on Mother's Day, on the 9th, my husband got a birthday gift from our in-laws. And I also got a gift as well, both monetary gifts. So we each got $100. So 5-9, Mother's Day gift. So income. My husband wants to save his, or I think he said he wanted to put, he has a cash savings envelope inside the car for just in case he wants to use it. And then for mine, since I received $100 and I spent $54 at Passion Planner, or on the Passion Planner website. So I had only budgeted for myself $30. So what I'm going to do is just take the difference and then transfer the rest into my savings bucket, because I am saving up for something, slowly but surely getting there. So yeah, anyway, so once everything is all added up, all in here, and everything matches our checking account and what the cash we have on hand is, I am going to go ahead and just start in order, like as if I'm closing out the budget. I'm going to start with income. So if there's any incoming income, I will put that here. So I'm going to combine just gifts for birthday and Mother's Day, and I'm just going to put $200 there. I'm going to leave a line here because I will be transferring money over From our savings bucket, I believe 3 savings buckets that we're going to be transferring over from. It's going to be school, vehicle, and fun and events. So I'm just going to leave that line there and just put transfer from savings, and I'll just break it down from which buckets are coming from. And so next, with our fixed expenses, this one was already paid for. Rent finally cleared. It took a while. I don't like it when we still pay by check. And so sometimes it depends on our landlord when they go and deposit it. Southern California Edison, it was like $65 and 72 cents. Yeah, 72 cents. We've got that California tax credit, so it's a little lower than usual. Sam's Club, I for some reason thought it was on the 1st. Kind of worked out that's going to be on the 17th because as you guys saw, my checking account balance is pretty low, but that's because I haven't transferred over from our savings bucket. We're going to have a little bit more than that. Disney Plus we did pay for as well. And okay, so here is where the budget recap or spending recap, budget update with the variable expenses happen, and it can get a little tricky with the formulas because, so let me just show you. So I'm going to go over to my spending. So everywhere where I have food in the orange, luckily I have it all highlighted so it's easy for me to see. I'm going to put it equal. I have to put a negative so that it cancels out, if that makes sense, or else I'm going to get a negative number when I just keep adding it up. Hopefully that makes sense. So, and then I'm just going to add it, do another minus, add that, do it plus, and then minus again, and then that, and I think that's it for foods. Now I'm going to hit enter, and it should total up for me. So that's all of them. Wow, cutting it close with the food budget. So transportation, I'm gonna do the same thing. So everything in gray over here. I believe that's it. So $2.16 and 80 cents, and I will show you guys what I'm gonna do with that. Household, we didn't spend anything in household. Nah. Okay. So that's a 0. Kids, we've only spent, it's just one transaction, so I'm just gonna just type that in, and it was for $9.30. And then for my husband, full of items for him. Most of the time for him, it's really just takeout because he'll have some good weeks when he will bring his own lunch, but it's usually the same thing over and over again, and he gets tired of it, so. 306 for him, and then for myself, it was just that one transaction, $54.30. This one is a lot for sure. $189.49. I'm pretty sure I have everything all accounted for in here. I think that was from when I was updating my budget by Paycheck for Work. I think I just put it on there. Nothing in miscellaneous. Health and wellness, I think it was just one thing. It was like $4.93. I still have to pick up medicine, so that's going to increase. School, so $46.93. That for sure will come out of our school budget or school savings bucket. So right now we have spent a total of $671 and 65 cents, and our total budgeted amount was $525, so it's definitely more. So the plan is to transfer $89.49 from our savings bucket. I know it's not an even number, but I'm just taking the difference with this one, or with the amounts on here. So since I had budgeted $100, I'm just going to take the $89.49 out. Mine won't get transferred over from my savings bucket since I had money come in thanks to my in-laws with the generous gift. So since I spent $54.30 and my budget was $30, so $75 should be what I would be saving. $75.70. I'm just going to put 75 in there. And then for the vehicle fund, I don't think my husband has to get gas anytime soon. So what I'm gonna do, I believe this is still right. Yeah, $161 and 80 cents is what I'm gonna take out of our savings bucket. And $89.49 is transfer over from fun and events. I still haven't transferred anything over into our savings buckets. I'm actually gonna leave the travel budget in there, and I'm not gonna save because I do have to pay for a price difference with one of the flights that I booked last week. It ended up costing us $400 extra compared to what we paid last year. So I'm just gonna leave that instead of transferring it over. What's gonna end up happening next pay period, or when our next paycheck budget, is that I'm going to transfer over money from our travel savings bucket to cover that cost. We pay for the difference for the flight using one of my credit cards. So I want to make sure that gets paid for before it's due, before interest accrues on it. So yeah, so that's the plan for the savings. So the next step that I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and transfer these amounts over from our savings buckets. So I'm going to go and I'm going to go into my Capital One really quickly. Okay, so now that we're here inside of my Capital One account, I'm just going to go ahead and go in order. So for our school category, it was, I believe 46.93 that needs to get transferred over. So I'm going to go ahead and just transfer money, and it's going to come from the school and then transfer over to our Wells Fargo, and that's going to be for 46.93 cents. Is going to be going over to my checking account. What I have found so far with transferring money over from Capital One to Wells Fargo, it takes quite a bit of time to get into a checking account. This is pretty accurate. Usually 3 business days is pretty accurate. So I really wanted to transfer over before our paycheck hits on Friday. So that's the goal. That's why I try to do these on Monday if I need to transfer money over. So going back with fun and events, we are transferring over is $89.49. So from fun and events, just one time, it's going to come from our Wells Fargo, and it's going to be $89.49. That transfer, and that is it for that one. Go back, and then let's go into vehicles. Thankfully, we've started to put more into our vehicle fund. We both feel like we need to up our savings goals with some of these categories, which I will probably do an update video on as well, especially with our travel trip, because we're staying an extra night, and now I have to revisit my savings goals and make sure that we're still going to be on track to save the amount that we need by September. $161.80, and then that should be all of the transfers. And then come this Friday, we're actually going to be saving. We're going to do a chunk of our savings for this paycheck budget coming up. Anyways, you guys, that is pretty much it for this video. I really hope that this was helpful. Please make sure that you are updating your budget, especially with the variable expenses, especially if you are using a debit card. Keep track of your spending. Don't go over, or if you do, make sure you plan ahead to make sure that you cover for those. Thank you guys so much as always for watching, and I will talk to you in my next video. Have a good one, guys.